What's that one story you've always wanted to tell on r/AskReddit, but no one has ever asked the right question? A few weeks ago I was visiting Los Angeles. I'm from Spain, but am fluent in English. I needed help finding directions to a certain address. I'm in downtown at this point, on foot. I ask a guy in the street if he knows where the address is. He responds with, "No hablo inglés," which is I don't speak English in Spanish. Being from Spain, I understood him, and asked him again in Spanish. Then he says, in crystal clear English, "Dude, I just don't want to talk to anyone. Leave me alone." I live in a small rural town. When I was 7, my parents let my older sister and I ride our bikes about 3.5 miles into town to get lunch at the only restaurant in town, which my mom's cousin owns. I didn't realize how long of a ride 3.5 miles was and was hot and tired and crabby and burned my tongue on my burger, so I threw a fit and refused to ride my bike home. A stranger overheard my sister and I arguing about this and offered me a ride home. He said he could just put my bike in the back of his truck and everything would be fine. My sister agreed because she didn't want to have to call my parents to come pick us up and she was tired of my whining, and also she was 10 years old and dumb. I realized on the drive home that I hadn't given the man directions or told him my name, but he somehow knew my name and where I lived. He dropped me off at home, helped me put my bike in the garage, and then drove down the road to go visit my grandparents. It turns out, the man was my grandpa's brother, one of 12 siblings. He recognized me because I looked just like my mom did at that age. Wow, I was expecting that to end differently. She's lucky. So when I was very young, they released a large number of pedophiles from jail in one go in my town. This led to my mother explaining to her vocabulary proficient 3-year-old toddler what a pedophile was, and that they're bad people who want to hurt little kids. Well, a couple weeks later I get lost in the mall. My parents start frantically looking and hear me screaming pedophile at the top of my lungs. They race over and it's this little old lady who had tried to ask me if I was lost. Apparently she was mortified. It's been 24 years and it's still brought up at family functions. Update, they got released to being done their sentence or out for good behavior or whatnot. You surprisingly can't keep people in jail past their time. Who knew? 6th grade, I had hit a major growth spurt, so most of my clothes didn't fit and my family couldn't afford new ones. Once winter came around, the only jacket I had that I could still fit in even a bit was much too thin to be of any use. My teacher noticed and I walked into class one morning to see a big, fluffy winter coat on the back of my chair and a chicken soup for the soul book on my desk. Her kindness still makes my eyes water, even almost 2 decades later. Ms. Robertson, if you're reading this, thank you. I never forgot. Edit, I really never thought I'd say this, but rip inbox. I posted this late to the thread and thought it would get buried, didn't think I'd get more than 20 updates and especially not gold. To answer some common questions, this was in the Phoenix, Oz area, and I've tried to get in touch with her since, but I don't remember her first name and she doesn't work at the school anymore. My first reaction was to hesitate. I thought maybe someone had come in early to do homework or be tutored or something and left their stuff, but she saw my hesitation and ushered me over to my seat. I've gotten more than a few comments about how it's an amazing thing that she did so, especially on a teacher's salary, and I agree. It wasn't an inexpensive coat, and I wore that thing until I literally couldn't anymore. Here's to you, Ms. Robertson. I accidentally stole a car. I had just gotten off work, I was working 2 jobs at the time and I got barely any sleep. I walked out and got into my car, started it up, and started driving home. I didn't realize something was wrong until I couldn't find my aux cord, and then I started realizing that there were things in the car that were not mine. Like the child seat in the back. I was an 18-year-old with no kids. I flip a U-turn and bust ass back to work to hopefully get the car back before its owner notices it's gone. I didn't. Cops were there and I was very quickly arrested. Owner dropped charges only after 3 things were done. 1. I showed my keys unlocked and started her car. Then pointed to my car, which was the same model, color, and year. 2. One of my coworkers vouched for the fact that the customer parked in the spot I almost always parked in. 3. Camera footage was pulled for the past 9 days I had worked showing that 7 of those days I parked in that spot and the other 2 I parked close to it. Edit, y'all, the cops were doing their job and were polite about it because I cooperated. And the owner was right to be angry. I was a punk-ass kid who in her eyes had just stolen her car. Or at least took it out for a joy ride. The owner was a single mother and wasting any of her gas could have meant bad things. Please stop saying Teu were assholes. This happened to my grandfather. He went to the supermarket, walked to his car, unlocked it, started it, drove off. Pulling into the street, he realized this wasn't his car. His Cheez-Its were missing, the smell wasn't right, the interior wasn't quite right. He pulled back into the lot and saw his own vehicle, just a couple spots down from where he'd gotten into the wrong car. Same make and model, very similar, but slightly different. He was excited about and interested in what had just happened, and waited for the owner of the other wrong vehicle to exit the store. When that guy arrived, Granddad told him what had happened. "Hey, I accidentally drove your car." He went to demonstrate that his own key would unlock and start this dude's car. Nothing happened. His key no longer worked. The guy just stared at Granddad like he was crazy or stupid. The end. You know something's wrong when your Cheez-Its are missing. Was walking to the mailbox late one morning because I was expecting something important. The mailbox is roughly a half-mile from my house, and on the way I have to pass a bus stop. I was moseying along when I see the bus pull up, but I don't think much of it because it's hot and I'm tired and I'm not getting on the bus, I'm just going to the mailbox. Well, the bus waits and waits and waits. The bus is not leaving without me. Do I walk past the bus and ignore the situation? Do I thank the driver for waiting but explain I'm just getting the mail? No. I get on the ducking bus. What do I do next? I missed the stop I was planning to get off on. Next stop? Next town over. Bus only comes by once an hour. And that is how I ended up drinking tequila in a Walmart parking lot at noon. Never did make it to the mailbox. This is my favorite one because even though there's no context to the tequila thing, I fully get it. I feel like the preceding duck up is enough context. One time in second grade, we were taking a state standardized test. That means all day no talking and filling in bubbles. One kid who sat across from me, who I haven't heard say a word all year, this was the end of the year, stands up in the middle of the test in complete silence and says in an almost shout, "Has anyone seen Aladdin?" I reply, "The movie?" The kid says, "What movie?" in quite the inquisitive tone, and sits back down and goes back to taking the test as if that didn't just happen. Everyone was shocked, including the teacher. No one said a word after that. Weirdest moment of my life. I did something similar. I was in high school, in science class. The day before, I had been so extremely tired I fell asleep and got yelled at for a good while and extremely embarrassed. So that day I was trying everything to just stay awake. Teacher had been lecturing for quite a while, so I finally worked up the nerve to answer a question. Any question, even if I was wrong, to hopefully jolt myself awake. He asked something simple like where do electrons come from or whatever, and I was racking my extremely tired brain for an answer. No idea how or why I said this, but I shouted fairly loud, "Trains." And it for sure woke me up. I was horrified. There was a bit of silence, no one said anything, and teacher just repeated himself. I had no clue what happened and thought that maybe I had somehow fallen asleep? And quickly dreamt that? But in another class, I asked a guy who happened to have science with me if he heard someone shout "trains." "Yeah. What was that?" he had asked, and I told him what happened. We were both just confused. Wish I'd said something cooler like "Has anyone seen Aladdin?" Ha ha ha. I saw a black and white cat club. As in a club whose members were the neighborhood black and white cats. I happened to glance across the street one night and saw about 5 or 6 cats heading for a neighbor's backyard. I recognized all the cats, none of them had the same owner. There was the grumpy one owned by the old lady 2 houses down, the one that lived on the other side of the block, the probable stray, ect. Then I looked closer and saw my new little black and white kitten with them. What really makes this stick out to me was that it was only black and white ones. None of other cats in the area, and I know there were other, differently colored cats in the area. I'm still scratching my head over what that was. Welcoming party? Gang meeting? Cult initiation ritual? Has anyone else ever seen cats do this? Edit. So apparently cats holding secret neighborhood meetings for clubscults gangs is a weird thing cats do. Our feeble human sensibilities can't comprehend it. The only thing standing between us and complete dominance by our feline overlords is their lingering problem with color inclusivity. Formal event. They were the only ones properly attired. I was with 2 of my friends, around midnight. We were in high school at the time and were going to pull into the parking lot of a park to smoke weed while sitting in the car. We had been here several times before and it was private enough where nobody ever bothered us. This night we pull in and see a group of people just walking across the parking lot from one side to the other, and into the pitch black field. They weren't together, but almost 30 people throughout the parking lot just walking in the same direction. They looked like they were from all walks of life. A construction worker, kids, a grandma, all different looking people. As we pulled into the lot and my friend's car shined his headlights on some of the people, nobody turned around to look at us, they just kept walking without breaking eye contact with the field. TLDR, I went to a park to smoke weed with friends and came across a cult or possible group of zombies.